Hi everybody, it's Eric, and time for a video conversation for the week. I had a Twitter Q&A session this week on tax reform where I answered a lot of your questions about modernizing our tax code and why it's so important to helping our economy, our country, and Minnesota. So check that out on our social media networks, on Twitter of course. Also had the opportunity to testify this week before the Energy and Commerce Committee about the opioid crisis and share the perspective of what's happening in Minnesota, the challenges ahead, and the bipartisan solutions that the committee is looking at hopefully will come forward as well. We've provided more resources for that, but there's a lot more that can be done as well. Now let's get to our questions. The first actually comes from Erica, and she actually writes a letter and she says, Representative Paulsen, I am a nurse practitioner student and would like to know more about the Treat and Reduce Obesity Act, what it does, and how it will help address the growing epidemic of obesity in our country, something that I'm paying attention to. Thank you very much, Erica. Erica, actually, thanks for writing in. Erica, I know you're from Orono, and it says, I should note that today there are 1 in 3 adults that have obesity, and there are 20% of children that are obese. And if trends continue as they are, by the year 2030, it is estimated that 50% of our population in the United States will suffer from obesity. The Treat and Reduce Obesity Act is legislation, bipartisan legislation, that I've co-sponsored with my colleague from Wisconsin, Ron Kind, a Democrat, that targets obesity with Medicare recipients because chronic care management can save a lot of dollars in the healthcare system and improve the quality of life for our seniors. In particular, it makes sure that behavioral therapies are going to be accessible for our seniors from weight loss and other behavioral therapies, as well as making sure that FDA-approved drugs are allowed and permitted under Medicare Part D for weight loss provisions, which are not allowed right now as we update Medicare Part D. So those are 2 of the key provisions and opportunities within the Treat and Reduce Obesity Act that we can tackle a growing epidemic and crisis within healthcare. Next up is an email that comes in from Carlin in Bloomington. Carlin writes in, Dear Representative Paulsen, in response to the official announcement of the intent to renegotiate NAFTA, I'm writing to urge you to make sure its replacement is truly fair, not more of the same corporate-controlled trade policy that devastates farmers, working families, public health, and the environment. Please work to make sure that all stakeholders are at the table when crafting or renegotiating trade policies. Thank you, Carlin. Carlin, actually, thanks for writing. And for those of you who don't know, the NAFTA stands for the North American Free Trade Agreement, something that was crafted way back in the mid-90s. It's been decades since it's been updated. It should be modernized. The good news is we're modernizing it with negotiations right now between Mexico and Canada. On digital trade in particular, an opportunity as e-commerce has grown, people are using the internet. It doesn't matter if you're involved in mining or agriculture or other services and selling goods. The internet is a huge opportunity to expand economic expansion, and that's something that it was not a part of NAFTA when it was originally negotiated. There are a lot of barriers that countries are putting up, and if we renegotiate a new chapter in digital trade, we can set the gold standard, not only within NAFTA, but for other trade agreements down the road. And in terms of protecting our farmers, our ranchers, and others, Prime Minister from Canada, Trudeau, was here in Washington recently. We had a chance to sit down and personally talk with him about these negotiations. The importance of opening up dairy in Canada, for instance. The importance of Canada protecting intellectual property rights that we in America hold very dear, and that rule of law. I'm confident and hopeful and optimistic that these negotiations, as they're going forward, will make sure that American interests, that we have a level playing field. So American exporters of all goods and services will have that level playing field, which is absolutely needed in all different segments of our economy. Thanks everyone for joining. Don't forget to check out my social media site and the Twitter Q&A session, which is brand new. You can find me anytime, of course, on the website at paulsen.house.gov as well. Have a great weekend and enjoy the rest of the week.